Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Augmenttors with me, George Smith. Quick shout out to Augmentt, company I work for letting me run this kind of educational series. Augmentt is a hi Levi. Augmentt is a M365 product focused on helping MSPs simplify security and management of that very dense suite. And today I'm very happy to introduce Mary Hamilton, CEO of Mad Data, a very fast-growing MSP in the United States, here to talk about her company growth, personal growth challenges she's faced along the way, and also congratulate her formally on her recent promotion to Vice Chair of the CompTIA SaaS Advisory Board. Mary, welcome. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here and excited about just connecting and actually having good conversation.
Yeah, thrilled to have you here. I feel like there's so much for us to chat about, with your history and experience, but maybe to kind of get the ball rolling, can you tell us a little bit about life pre Mad Dog and what you were doing before you were a quote unquote MSP, and then what happened? What was there a particular life event that made you say, you know what? Going to be an MSP, going to be an entrepreneur, going to have my own business? What was the decision that started that story?
It's going to be kind of boring, so it won't be super exciting for a lot of people, but I got married when I was 21 and to my husband, Brian. And he shortly after that started, it was called Agaba Solutions, which was providing computer services to residential users predominantly. So like the call on Friday night late, like, hey, you should pick up my laptop in the truck, put some cash in there, and if you can just return it on Sunday, and you know what I mean. Gotcha. So that's how it started. And I was having children during that time. And then by the time we had our second kid, I was noticing, I was like, he can't do everything. So I just jumped into the typical wife stuff. I was like, let me do the invoicing. Let me help you at least balance the checkbook. And because it was him. It was a one-man show. So then we started growing, and then he got somebody else. And, then it was probably about 3 people that were working for that company. Then we changed the name because the name didn't make much sense. And we needed something that was going to be a little bit, sounded a little bit bigger than Agaba Solutions. And there's a long story that my husband has with that was very personal and meaningful to him. But at the end of the day, we needed a different evolution of the company. And at that point, I was getting more and more involved. So then I started doing more operational stuff, more just like director of operations, helping him. And so kind of our whole time, from the beginning, I never thought I was going to be an entrepreneur. My parents attempted it and I think failed miserably at it.
Oh, wow.
And they just kept playing, but I was like, I don't want that. Right. So I wanted to be a photographer and travel the world, and do national, that's what I wanted to do. I was on my way to do it. And then things happened and switched. So always helping in the background was really important to me to support. And I remember I started my photography business around 2007, 2006. And I was starting to do pretty decent. And then I had this fork in the road that I was like, I can either go my way or I can help him in the company. And I know my ambitions. So I'm like, if I go my way, I'm going to go my way. And I'm going to go all the way. And I was like, that doesn't seem like it's going to be very helpful for the family unit, So then it was, let me help you so that we can make this successful and I can just really support you in this. So through the years, by the time I had my 4th kid, I remember being pregnant with my 5th kid, we actually moved it. We needed to grow out because, and I've said this in some stories, but I was at the house. I'm pregnant with, I think, my 4th kid at this point. I'm running outside and trying to answer the phone calls. And kids are sliding down the glass doors, crying and snotting. And I'm trying to be professional, right? That's what it takes. So anyway, fast forward, we finally got it out of the house. And then we went to Robin Robbins, her direct campaign marketing came to us. And we were like, huh. And I remember Brian bringing it to me. I was like, whatever. I'm like, it's just a bunch of bull crap. And then he got on the calls with them. And so then I spent time actually researching and looking at it and got involved with that community. And when we came back from our first event, Brian brought back 5 binders and dropped them on my desk and was like, learn this. And I was like, okay, well, I'd never heard of a PSA. I'd never heard of a CRM. I'd never heard of data or backup or virtualization or file folder, cybersecurity, like all this stuff. And I started reading it and I was like, it was a whole new world because I realized that people weren't educated. So for me, that was a shift. Like I always helped in the background, but when I kind of found a cause is where things shifted for me because I saw that in this world, as I listened to other people, they were bragging about using like ESET and they were like, oh, it's like 32 cents an endpoint. But I'm charging like $10, $15 for the customer. And I was like, that seems like I understand business, but it just seemed a little rapey to me, in this situation. Yeah. So anyway, that I think pivotal moment for me was when he came back and put that and delving into, and data was honestly like my first passion because I understood what they did and nobody was teaching anybody the differences between file folder backup and virtualization. And everybody was selling this, but I'm like, when an incident happens, you don't need file folder, you need virtualization.
Right.
So
you felt more confident that you could actually speak to the technical solution despite not actually having a technical background and just learning. Yeah. I mean, I love that, Mary.
Yeah.
That sounds like there's so many people and folks out there that I think have a almost identical origin story. Their partner is a technical person, starts their own business. It's hard being an entrepreneur. You mentioned, your parents had those challenges as well. And so the partner then steps in without maybe the technical IQ, but it's like, I want to help. I'm here to help. For like you said, that family unit. And then it's straight in the deep end, right? So we know that's particularly true in our industry. It's a male-dominated industry. Guys seem to, for whatever reason, gear more towards tech and non-humanistic vocations. So as someone who, because I remember vividly being at Robin Robbins Bootcamp in 22, I think, where you guys were shortlisted on the Producers Club, Better Your Best, and this, I just find the story very inspirational from what you and Brian had achieved. But I wanted to ask you about some of the challenges that you might have faced as a woman in the tech industry. I mean, how did you overcome them? Is there a particular story that you can share where you felt particularly tested?
Yes. I think the biggest thing is underestimated and looked down on because I'm not technical. So that's been everywhere. It used to really make me so angry. I'd go anywhere I'd go. They'd be like, oh, are you the marketing girl? And I'm like,
no, I'm the CEO, actually.
Yeah. And I got tired of like defending my position, or my acumen. So I remember there was one, I was at a conference and I was talking to these guys and they were bragging about, they're like, I've been in the industry because I was talking to them about an MDR solution. And so that whole concept I was learning and I just learned and I was like, and it was bigger, like the benefit I have is not being technical because I can pull out and I can see different angles of it, right? I'm not so much like it's A plus B equals C. It's not zeros and ones. So I remember talking to them and I was like, and this is what really made me like angry and really ignited a different passion in me because I'm talking to them about the solution and they were like, they're like, we've been in the industry for 30 years and we deal with compliance and banking and credit unions and we only secure the C-suite. And I was like, really? I was like, you don't secure the entire company? And they're like, no. They're like, it's only the C-suite that we need to worry about. And I was like, I'm sorry. I'm a little confused because I thought that the entire company needed to be protected because you could go in through a lower level to get to a higher level, or kind of like, I'm going to lock the front door, but we're going to open up every window and leave all the back doors open. Like, I'm just confused. And at that moment, then it was literally just talk. Like, I mean, it was like this avalanche of, nothing. And
Yeah,
I was like,
that's really interesting because I think like it just kind of goes to show in our space, like technology is crazy rapidly advancing all the time. And so, yeah, I can imagine what that's like coming in and having read your five binders and got up to speed. There's probably some, old school guys that from back in the day of wires, servers, routers, switches, wiring, and they've been there, done that,
yeah.
maybe haven't evolved. And so was that difficult for you to kind of challenge them? Have you ever had things like imposter syndrome, or like how did you get to the level where you're just like, actually I don't care about that and I know what I'm talking about and I'm going to go and do my thing and kind of roll up the sleeves and have the watch this, hold my beer attitude?
Yeah. That, I mean, from a personal side, there was a lot of resistance on people that I would talk to and express. I was like, well, what about this? And what about this? Like, I think that, just seeing things, I was like, why are we so tied to old school ways? Like, why are we tied? I would go through these conversations and I never understood, what is it, gaslighting
Yeah.
until recently. And I was like, oh man. And so I felt stupid because the people I was talking to, they didn't understand, but because they couldn't understand, then they were just like, well, it can't happen. But then I just kept talking to people. And I remember I sat down and was talking with Matt Lee and his wife, Kat, there. And I just started talking. And I felt absolutely ridiculous because these are people that like know their stuff. Right. And I'm talking to him and he's like, oh, no, you're right. And I was like,
Yeah. Yeah, Matt's
so
fantastic, isn't he? One of the smartest guys but also can definitely simplify very complex technical
yeah.
and kind of talk to people on their level of understanding, so there can be agreement or just understanding and learning.
Yeah. I think for me too, like, I don't know if it's an asset or a hindrance. I'm a little bullish. So I'm just going to keep talking until I kind of find the right person because eventually I'm either going to be like, no, you're really way off, or no, this is possible. And what I have found is that going to networking and honestly just having conversations with people and connecting with leading to ideas, leading to those things, then they are like, oh no. And then we have brilliant discussions and true conceptual ideas come and then they're like, yeah, well this, or have you thought about this? I'm like, oh yeah, it's so the imposter syndrome has been completely real for me because going from being a housewife to just supporting to leading the company, there's been a lot of challenges with that just as a whole. So I'm still like, I'm like, really? But you got to get over it,
Yeah.
right? Like you don't live by fear, I guess.
Well, that I was going to ask, like, what advice would you give to other women who are hesitant to enter the tech industry or even start their own MSP due to those kind of societal barriers or personal doubts?
I would say get over being a woman, stop using it as a crutch and being a victim because I think that's the biggest thing is they're like, oh, we're a woman and oh, we're like, they're going to look down on me. Yeah, so what? It's like we have advantages too. So like, let's look for the opportunities, right? Like the biggest benefit I have in this industry is that because I'm genuinely curious, most people will sit down and talk to me and have conversation versus me walking around like I know my stuff. So I think if you get over being a woman, it's not about that. It's about your competency and your capacity. And if you walk into any room and you're competent and you actually know what you're talking about, it's kind of like the gift can get you in the door, but your character will keep you there. It's the same concept. So I get really frustrated with women when they're like, well, I'm like, I don't care that you're a woman. Like you either know your stuff or you don't use it as a victim card. Don't use it in the industry. Be like, well, I want to be a woman. This is ones and zeros, right? Like it's
right. Yeah, I love that. Don't use your ones and zeros, use your A, B, and C's. And I think you're touching on a point as well that it's like maybe own that. Like there's superpowers that women have that men don't have, right? And leverage those and use those. You mentioned one there about having a better air of approachability. Is there other things you think that women overlook that it's like, no, like use this, leverage this lean into to this
Intuition.
and intuition.
Like we're feelers, like women, we feel a lot of stuff. So it's when you're out and you're talking to people, use that, right? Use that discernment. Like, is this person going to be a giver or taker, right? Is this person going to help me or not help me? Can I talk to them? Can I not? Because then that translates to customers. Like the benefit I have is, you can read people. Most women have it. It's not like it's just a female thing. So use that in this business. It's, everything goes back to, we're emotional creatures. We live on our emotions and we drive by our emotions. So you have to have a place for them, but you also have to separate to be logical. And that's what I think the balance, and that's what the challenge is, because women want to lean so hard into like, I'm a woman, I'm feeling this. And well, great, use it. But you also have logic, and that has to be able, if you're in the tech world, then you're going to be bent that way to understand that it's ones and zeros. Yeah. It's framework. So that's the biggest thing. Sorry.
A lot of women as well, Mary, like yourself, become mothers as well. I mean, you said is it 5 kids that you have, right? Mm-hmm. So you've been there, done that 5 times. A lot of female entrepreneurs and mums self-admittedly struggle sometimes with work-life balance. You're definitely someone who seems to have got a really good mastery over that. Like, how do you begin to set boundaries between your role as CEO of Mad Dog and your personal life?
Honestly, like, I've had to grow in this and learning. Like, there's a time years ago, and we talked about this before at one point, but years ago, I was really, really struggling with, I know my ambitions and I understood it. I was self-aware enough to know that I don't want to sacrifice my children on the altar of success. I don't want to use them or abuse them emotionally, time-wise. Like, I don't want their memory or legacy of mom to be like, oh, she never had time for us. She was always working, right? So I was really, really struggling with this. And I remember having a conversation, Robbins, they had asked me through Brian, they were like, could Mary talk to another wife and just tell her, like, basically her story and how she's handled it, and is it worth it? And I was like, if you want that, then I want 15 minutes with Robin. I've got questions. And so we get on a call an hour later, but the biggest thing was, I was like, I'm struggling as a mom and as a woman, because I don't want to, read just kind of what I've already said. And she was like, let me do that. She's like, let me have a group of women come together and we'll help you. So female leaders in Robbins showed them into a room. Well, I go up into the room. She mics me up, and then there's like 30 or 40 women there. And I was like, what the heck? This was supposed to be a small lesson of 5 women. I was like, you did this. But through that and expressing vulnerabilities and talking to these other women, they were like, absolutely, it's real, right? Like, this mom guilt is a whole different level than dad guilt. And it's just, it is what it is. You're not going to be able to get rid of it. But when I started watching these other women, and for me, what helped was I saw other women have, nothing's perfect, but their children still talk to them. They understood what it meant. And Robin said this in the call, and I live by this all the time. I was thinking about it last night. There's no such thing as balance. There's literally only priorities. And that single statement changed my life, because I understood I'm going to be wildly lopsided because I'm working and I'm just a mom, which means not just a mom. I don't mean it like that, but I'm a mom and I'm working. So that means my social life is going to be pretty much non-existent. Going to the PTA stuff, and I'm like, nope, I'll give you money, not giving you time, right? So it started to bring clarity for me on how to be a mom and a CEO, because when I'm done with work, so I've read The Alter Ego, and it really helped me as a mom, because I get home, I go put on my sweats, right? Like, I have to physically change because I'm CEO. Like, I have my uniform, right? And then when I'm mom, I go put on my sweatpants and my t-shirt, and I'm like, and it allows me to make that transfer, because when I'm with my kids, I want to be with my kids. And I think that's the biggest thing, is I don't want to pull in work all the time. And I'm just like, no, I'm mom. So phone goes away, but I'm like, burn, because this is my time with my children.
So is time then the most valuable currency you have?
Yes, it is. I'm very stingy with my time.
But you've got to protect that. I mean, that's how you set those boundaries. I mean, I think I remember you
Yep.
saying to me as well, you have some key non-negotiables, like you don't miss your
Yep.
kids' birthdays, things like
Yep.
that.
Yep.
You'll always be there for that.
Yep.
Despite,
And
despite
it's,
what sacrifice that might be, it's like, nope, that's just a hard rule.
yep. I don't care. I'm like, I've had people reach out and they're like, oh, we'll pay for this. We want you. I'm like, no, my kid's birthday. Like, I only have them for a short amount of time, right? Like holidays, not going to miss. I'm not going to infringe on that. If they have something major going on, like soccer tournament, I'm going to be there. I don't care. I'm like, these are things for me. I only have so many. I have my oldest son. I've got 2 Christmases with him left.
Mm-hmm.
I've got 1 summer with him left. I've got 2 Thanksgivings. I've got 2 more Easters. And so when you start to quantify time, then you understand where you need to allocate your priorities to.
Yeah, I read something the other day that really stuck with me on this subject, and it was something along the lines of the only people who remember how late you worked or all the overtime you put in are your children. So, but I wanted to come back to whenever kind of Robin got a bunch of other females in the room with you. I mean, and that kind of ties in with the female superpower stuff. That's again something that I think comes very organically to women, to be supportive and caring and nurturing, whereas guys
Yeah,
kind of like, I got this, we're a bunch, we're islands, we can shoulder everything, and it's a missed opportunity. So on that kind of subject of mentorship and networking, I mean, how big a role has that played in your journey, and were there any key people other than Robin that have influenced your growth as an MSP business owner?
absolutely. I mean, in our industry, I've had um, Jay Ryerson has helped mentor me in cybersecurity. Wayne Selk has helped mentor me. Matt Lee has helped mentor me. Um, business wise, in the producers club, there was other business people in there that spent time to work with me. I mean, there's a long list of people that I have built, basically this collection of experts, so that when I'm struggling with something, I talk to them and they help provide me clarity. Jeff Farr, he's an MSP owner. He's indispensable because it's the operational and the security. Like, it's tremendous. I have, I think, more male mentors because there's fewer females. Joanna Mirov, she owns an MSP. She recently sold it in the last year. She's been an incredible, like, I took time, and this was something that meant a lot to me. As I remember talking to my husband, I was like, look, I need to go see people and I need to spend time with them. And they opened up their door. Like, Joanna let me come and spend 2 days at her business and then just hang out with her and talk with her. And that, like, that means so much. If you're willing, number one, if you ask, most people are willing to do that. And then to spend the money, they think it's foolish. But I'm like, the ROI, it didn't come through, customers, but it came from me as a leader, right? It came from me as understanding process. And so I think the biggest thing, I just ask. I'm that obnoxious kid that's in the classroom asking 1,000 questions. I don't care if I'm the dumbest person in the room. If I don't understand something, I'm going to ask, because I want to grow and I want to be better than I am yesterday, right? Or even this morning. So I think if you can find, you just have to ask people, get in the rooms, figure out. And one thing I learned, which nobody ever told me this, but through experience, I started looking at who has the outcomes that I want, because at first I would just listen to everybody. And then I was like, then I started noticing missing pieces. So having a scorecard of like why Robin is important to me, because when I've been in her home and I walked her with her family, she's there, right? Like, she's wife and mom. When I see her running her business, she's CEO and handling her business, right? Like, and her family's not falling apart. She's not, in an extreme debt and trying to pretend to have this life. So it's like looking for people who have the outcomes that you want because they've been there and done that. There's a lot of coaches out there, but they've never really led anybody, right?
Yeah. I always find it really interesting seeing some of the programs out there that it's like, here's how you grow your business, and it's being ran by someone who's never ran their own business before, right?
Yep.
That's the interesting thing. I think, like, would you agree that like the channel, this kind of niche corner of IT that we're in, it's crazy just how much goodwill and helpful people and how willing
Yes.
people are to give you your time.
Yes.
So whenever you mentioned many names there of those people that were more than willing to open up their office to you, to give you advice, to be on call, has have those experiences in turn really kind of opened you up and made you more willing to be a mentor to other people? If there was folks who were where Mary was 5-10 years ago and needed some tips and advice, would you be happy to extend that and help other folks?
Yeah, I have, like, but what I watch for, and this is the thing, is when people start, so I've had to learn that there's givers and there's takers, right? There's consumers and then there's givers. People who are consumers, I will help. And as soon as I start seeing it, then I put up walls and I'm like, nope, because then I had one instance where happy to help because they wanted advice. I'm very willing to do it because it's been done for me and I always want to pay it forward. I want to help people as much as I can to get where they need to be. And I'm like, whatever I have, I don't feel like it's a lot, but you're more than welcome to it. Okay. And help them along that way. But when somebody was like, can you just give me like a cybersecurity presentation that you've done, or I was like,
oh, can you just do my homework for you?
Basically. And I was like, yeah, no, you've got to learn to do the work, right? Like, there's a certain amount that you can help, but.
Well, that seems like it's a key learning. Another question I had for you here was, kind of just around the journey of learning as well. Like whenever we go back to kind of mad data, were there any critical decisions or pivots that you and Brian had to make that significantly impacted your path to success?
Yeah, I think when we went from there's key moments in our journey. So one was becoming an actual MSP. And like when we went into this part of the market and started seeing, oh, there's a better, smarter way. Like we knew something when
what
they
does
were
that mean
just
for you? Is that offering services? Like whenever you say being an actual MSP, what are the key things that you define?
It went from being a break fix shop to actually having tools that we were updating on the back end. Like we were managing their network instead of doing it manually. So it was automating it and doing it so we could do more from the office, because everything up until that point was going to the person's place.
So get out of the van and have more remote capabilities and offer services that you're generating monthly recurring revenue.
Yes. Going from the break fix model to recurring revenue and then how to provide value, that was a big pivot for us. Acquiring another company, like buying them out because they were going out of business. And it was like, well, why don't you make some money and we can do it? It was like a perfect thing. That was another pivotal point. And then learning from how to actually care for clients, I think was another change. So female superpowers, right? Authentic nurturing and caring and listening to people comes much easier for us than men. Like I will ask questions and actually like look you in the eye and listen, and learning how to do that and then take note and then build for the future. Those were things that changed our work, doing technical business reviews and having an agenda. And that was something that Joanna Muroff had helped me with. She was like, no, she's like, stop doing this, do this. And then walked me through it. And I was like, then I felt stupid because I was like, so do you guys have any plans to grow your business in like the next 6 months or anybody? I felt completely stupid, but then it became natural. So then it was just having business conversations with people, which opened up the door for us to sell security and become, I'm not going to say that I'm a true MSSP, but those roles, those moments in our journey, those were pivotal moments for us.
So kind of what's next for you, you and the company? I mean, whenever you think about your legacy, even what kind of legacy do you hope to leave both in the channel and also your personal life?
yeah, I'm like, it's such a big question. I'm like, legacy for kids, it's much easier on the personal side, but I know for Mad Data, like, I'm always looking forward and to see where the puck is going to solve real problems for the business owners, right? Like, a lot of them, like this whole concept of AI, they're like, Teams is AI. I'm like, no, Teams is not AI, but let me help you. So for me, the direction I'm taking is I believe that IT should be simple. It's too complicated. It's too dependent on a person to actually do everything. And I'm like, we can do so much more with less. So taking what I do well for customers is taking them from legacy programming or on-prem solutions to the cloud. And then like, so how to leverage this so that you can have less problems and actually be more productive. So I'm leaning hard into, obviously security is my backbone, and then taking people into the cloud and using AI so they can actually do it. So I'm embracing all the crazy. I feel like I'm like, bring it here, let me figure it out, and we're going to do it. So that's
a smart thing. I feel like that's always been a prominent value add for IT businesses as long as IT has been around, and it just feels like it's that pond is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as IT gets crazier and crazier, right? And we're connected to in every way. And even back in the day when, like, you talk about break fix and heading out because someone's printer isn't working, that seems like such a trivial problem now compared to how everything is connected and integrated, and if that doesn't work, and how does this transfer, and I'm using this tool but I want to migrate here, or I need something to fix this problem. Oh, there's a bit of software that does that. I don't know how to use it. Let me set it up for you. Let me teach you. Cool. That's tier 1. I want to get up to tier 3. Great. Well, we'll ramp. Like there's a whole category of jobs there where you don't even need to be a significantly technically enabled person. You just need to be, I use a phrase that, like, that's why I like your ones and zeros versus ABCs. I'm kind of the same. I'm more ABCs. I don't have a significant technical background, but I'm not a dolphin. I work with a lot of dolphins, really, really smart, but can't talk to humans. My little superpower, listening to the dolphins and then being able to translate that into regular people who don't have a clue about an RMM or a PSA or really what it is, or half the acronyms that are in the channel, what those stand for. So I think that's definitely the thing to double down on, Mary, for sure. We're out of time, but we do have a little thing that we like to do here where the previous guest who's been chatting with me leaves a question for the next guest without knowing who they're going to be or what we're talking about. And so the question that has been left for you, Mary, is how do you celebrate wins in your business regardless of size? And can you share a story of a recent win that you had?
So there's two ways. Is typically, so a big win that I've done, I'd always wanted a pair of Christian Louboutin, the red bottom shoes, right? And I landed a contract, and I told myself, I was like, if I land this contract, it's still the largest contract in the company. I was like, I'm buying my pair. And so that was a big win for me, is because it was revenue. So I could do it. And I got those shoes, and I still wear them to today. They are my signature iconic shoes. I love them because it's attached to a victory for me. So other wins, I typically, honestly, like, I'm pretty boring. I will take moments, and I write a lot. So I will journal a lot of my wins and then just take time to feel it. I think that's something that a lot of entrepreneurs don't do. They're like, let's go do this physical thing to replicate it. But I have learned, for me, what helps me is to actually sit down and then just feel it. And as I write about it, I feel it. And then I'm like, okay, I'm good. Let's go on to the next one.
Wait before you move on to the next thing.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, Mary, thanks so much for your time. I really, really appreciate you sharing some wisdom and some of your experiences here today. If anyone is seeing this in the future and does have a question or wants to reach out to you for anything, whether it's around services as an MSP, or maybe it's a young lady in the channel looking for some mentorship, what's the best way to get in touch?
Well, you can email me, which is mary.hamilton@maddata.io, or I'm on LinkedIn and I'm on Instagram. So those are places to find me if you want to connect and ask me anything.
There you go. Go find her. Everyone, thanks for joining us. And thanks again to Augmentt for sponsoring the series. And thanks again, Mary, for your time. Have a lovely afternoon, and I'll see you in person very soon.
All right. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.